disaster recovery and the civil unrest that unfolded in Baltimore last year. Disaster recovery is different in government than other areas. We have a public safety mission. We're responsible for maintaining law and order, and there are critical services that we have to continue to provide throughout disasters, even more so in emergency situations. So disaster recovery is more than just data backups and redundant servers. It's emergency management as well. Last year, David Garcia was appointed to Governor Hogan's cabinet as the state CIO. 2 weeks before Freddie Gray had a controversial run-in with police in front of many witnesses and cell phone cameras. 1 week later, unfortunately, he passed away, and that began protests in the streets of Baltimore. Governor Hogan immediately mobilized state police resources to support the city police, and soon thereafter, the situation escalated into riots. There were flyers being passed around the schools saying the purge begins at 3 p.m. at this place or that place, and because of the disaster recovery planning, emergency management planning, we were able to have resources to contain that violence, but it quickly got out of hand. At the time, Secretary David Garcia was at NASCIO Mid-Year Conference in Alexandria, Virginia. And as frequently happens during the conference, CIOs get called back. This is a pretty good reason to get called back. When the governor moved his offices to Baltimore and mobilized his cabinet, the interesting thing is the theme of the conference last year was disruptive change is the new norm, which we'll see on the slide in a second here. I'm talking a little fast. Still not sure exactly how Stu Davis orchestrated riots in Baltimore to hammer home the theme of the conference, but I was pretty impressed with that. Disaster recovery is risk management. Disaster recovery is knowing what services need to operate, who's going to be responsible for immediately responding versus supporting that response during an extended activation. With this event, Governor Hogan mobilized the National Guard, called in resources from Delaware, Pennsylvania, DC. Forgive me if I left out any states that provided help. We had calls coming in from Missouri who had a similar incident, from other states offering support and advice. And we had literally dozens of entities all trying to address the same issue. So that takes a lot of coordination, a lot of preparation, a lot of being prepared for the unknown and unknowable. It's about being able to respond to the situation at hand as it unfolds. So you have to know your business areas. Every one of those teams has to understand what it is they need to do. They have to understand how to do their job effectively, how to do it in a way that doesn't conflict with other entities, and that's very highly coordinated and highly effective. Our Maryland First radio system, or first responder public safety radio system, was the star of the response. We had, before one foot stepped into the state from outside, we had banks of radios ready to go. We had charging stations for the responders to swap out radios. We had standard operating procedures. We had programming stations. We had hundreds of radios coming in from the outside that within minutes were programmed and ready to go on the talk groups with the standard operating procedures to use those talk groups effectively, not talk over each other, communicate accurately, clearly, very effectively. And with all that communication, we start to identify and prioritize our risks. We use GIS assets to visualize the hot spots, to mobilize resources where they needed to be, contain the violence and minimize the spread of violence and damage. We had looting, we had rocks thrown at police, we had injuries, we had arrests, and coordinating that with dozens of agencies takes a lot of preparation, a lot of prioritization, and communication. So we had GPS transponders on certain assets, providing real-time data into the central system, data updated in real time on the tablets in the field, so the first responders had that information at hand, updated and real time. We had industry partners providing support as well. We identified some cyber attacks that were happening on city sites. The National Guard was one great partner in responding. They reverse engineered the software that Anonymous was distributing to carry out these attacks and to counteract those threats. One game, the stadium shut down and locked all the fans inside while the streets calmed before, hours of leaving. In the next game, you saw the empty stadium. That's a priority risk, right? We had tens of thousands of people in the stadium, so we identify those priorities, we mitigate. We have to have a mitigation plan. A lot of the mitigation plan is reaction. It's having a robust toolbox and understanding what needs to be activated and where and when, and being able to communicate that and coordinate that clearly. We were able to stand up Maryland Unite's website to coordinate communication with the community, with the businesses that were being destroyed and the citizens that were displaced. Very quickly, within a couple hours, we had that site, and there was a press conference where the governor was directing people to that site. And then with your mitigation plan, you have to test and train. Something that we all say, rarely do, or I guess do robustly enough. It's not only the initial responders, it's not only those first steps that you have to do. You have to be prepared for extended activation. We run through drills with virtual assets on the map, with virtual situations unfolding, and are able to train not only the initial responders, but the supporting resources as well. And bottom line, when all else fails, in Baltimore, we had a situation where LaToya Graham found her son rioting, smacked him upside the head, ripped his mask off, and shamed him in front of the media. So when all else fails, send in the moms. Thank you very much.